This video is brought to you by Cracks Only. Check out the link in the video description below to get to their website and check out their latest products. Trust me, you do not want to miss them.
What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Welcome back to another edition of the Transfer View. We're back. It's a new week. It's a new day. And it's time to chat more transfer goings on. Well, I say transfers, happenings and going-ons in the world of Manchester United. Not that much, is it really? But that's not to say there's not much going on in the world of Manchester United. It's a busy time in the world of Manchester United. We're going to be chatting a little bit this morning about Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Omar Berrada, the influence that Ratcliffe seemingly has if this first... I guess it's a signing. You could classify it as a signing for all intents and purposes for today's show. We'll consider it a signing, not player signing, an executive signing, a CEO signing. So we'll be chatting about that. We'll also be talking about Casemiro, as he's been linked with a Saudi exit at the request of one Cristiano Ronaldo. Yes, his former Real Madrid and Manchester United teammates seemingly wants Casemiro to make the trip over to Saudi in the summer. We're also going to be talking about Erik ten Hag wanting Brian Brobbey. Yeah. Another Ajax signing. Well, let's get into that one a bit later on. And we're going to be chatting a little bit about Andre Onana and what's going on with him at AFCON. And after all of the sort of palaver involved in him, he could be back fairly quickly and not even miss a singles match. So we're going to be chatting about that as well. But hope everyone's doing good. Hope you're all having a good Monday. Hope you got your cup of coffee or... you know, your porridge in the morning. It might not even be the morning where you are actually. It might be the afternoon. It might be the evening. So I hope you're having a good day. If you're in the UK, hope you've stayed safe from the storms. We've had terrible storms all over the country over the last night. I kind of like it. I'm one of those ones when there's anything that's like some big weather's going on outside, you know, heavy rain or snow or wind. Sometimes you just like to watch. Sometimes you just like to listen, don't you? And go, I tell you what, it's absolutely teaming it down outside as well. But, you know, it is dangerous at the same time. So I hope everyone stayed safe if you were in the UK and it comes to the storms and all that. Let me know this morning. How was it for you? If you're not in the UK, what's the weather like for you this morning as well? Is it still cold where you are? Is it quite warm where you are as well? Let me know in the live chat too. We've also got quite a lot of new members because there's been a madness in the last few days, an absolute madness, with the head of recruitment Tabaslov gifting out 50 memberships the other night on Saturday. It was a Saturday night stream, wasn't it? Flex and myself, the Omar Berrada new CEO stream. That was incredible. And lots of people gifting them out as well, sort of gifting 5 memberships and what have you. So for all of those new members that have just joined, welcome. There's new emojis that were added last night. I think there's the OWEN siren emoji finally. We've got the Kenmoji is in there too. But people have been asking, Owen, when is there going to be new members content? The answer is today. Yes, today. There will be new members content today in the form of a new episode of UV Raw. So if you are a new member, you're in for a treat. Now, if it's the episode that I want to be released today, it's going to be an all-timer. There is a really strong episode that's been rumoured about for quite some time. And the episode that's been rumoured about for quite some time is the Flex Cooks Mackerel episode, which I don't want to give too much away. Don't want to get into spoilers or anything like that, but I think it's a pretty deadly sin to cook fish, particularly mackerel, in a communal microwave at work. Yeah, I think it's out of order. And you find out what happened that day as well. So, yes, very, very strong. But you haven't come here to talk about the weather and fish, even though what a show that would be. We're here to talk about Manchester United, so we'll get into that in just a second. Let's see what people are saying in the chat here at the moment. George says we've got bigger fish to fry. Well, yeah. I mean, Flex didn't that day with the microwave. It was a disgrace. It was absolutely horrible. Lots of people putting up the Owen siren. Let's see if Let's see if we get one today. Most likely, let's be honest. Draw with both. There you go. There's the Owen Siren and there's the Kenmoji in there as well. The Kenmoji is very, very strong. Woomings in Singapore says 5 p.m. Singapore raining. There you go. Prod by Paramera says tuning in from Egypt. Lovely weather right now. Coming home on Wednesday. What else are people saying here? Tabeslaw saying awful in Norway. Big up Tabeslaw, head of recruitment. Simon McGill says thunder and lightning is great. Lots of people getting involved when it comes to the weather as well. And it's just Danny straight away with the super chat says, not well, Owen, inspired me this morning with a poop emoji. I'm not sure I'm even that good. You know, I can do a show. We can talk about transfers. I don't know if, you know, if Man United sort of transfer news and rumours and Man United getting a new CEO is the equivalent to, you know, Imodium or anything like that. I'm not sure if that is, but get well soon, because I had the norovirus over Christmas. It was horrible. It was horrible. So get well soon. Appreciate the contribution, and yeah, let's get into some transfer stuff, shall we? And also, Mankin Chicago with the super chat says, "What's up, bro? Up the not so mighty Reds." Well, you never know. It could be a new dawn. It could be a new day. Let's get into this. So let's start off talking about Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his influence when it comes to the announcement of Omar Berrada as the new CEO of Manchester United. Now, there's quite a lot to get into here. Mike Keegan has written a piece for Mail Sports saying some have wondered how much say Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his Ineos group will have at Manchester United following their deal for 25% of the club. The answer is plenty if the appointment of Omar Berrada as chief executive is anything to go by. Agenda, that was like, it's like Sports Agenda, it's a thing they do for the Mail. So Agenda understands the first approach to the highly regarded Manchester City man was made by Ineos' Sir Dave Brailsford in December. A meeting followed with Ratcliffe before a summit involving the Glazers. So it does imply that this happened very, very quickly, very fast, because, and I don't say particularly in December when it was, one would assume, I mean, was it done before everything was announced on December 24th, Christmas Eve, or was it done after the announcement? If it was done after the announcement, I mean, it's only the 22nd of January, so it's only sort of really 3 weeks this has kind of happened of making the first approach by Sir Dave Brailsford, talking to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and then having it signed off by the Glazer siblings. Again, it's pretty fast, and also pretty fast, pretty quick, and pretty, you know, nondescript. Nobody knew that this was happening, and it was a pretty quick thing, which is rare for Manchester United as well. It continues by saying, another clue came in United's statement on Saturday to announce what many see as a coup. It read, quote, "The club is determined to put football and performance on the pitch back at the heart of everything we do. Omar's appointment represents the first step on this journey. This is the first public admission that, on the Glazers' watch, football has not come first." Now, this is quite interesting. So this actually gets into the statement from Manchester United when they announced Omar Berrada as the new chief executive, new CEO at the weekend. And I actually, when I read this, one of the first things I did is I sent a message to Flex going, that's a pretty strong statement. And it's certainly using words and vernacular that Man United just wouldn't have used in the past when it comes to making announcements and what have you. So this is what they said. Manchester United is pleased to announce the appointment of Omar Berrada as its new CEO. The club is determined to put football and performance on the pitch back at the heart of everything we do. Omar's appointment represents the first step in this journey. Continues by saying, as one of the most experienced football executives at the top of European football, Omar brings a wealth of football and commercial expertise with a proven record of successful leadership and a passion to help lead change across the club. He is currently serving as Chief Football Operations Officer for City Football Group, overseeing 11 clubs across 5 continents, and prior to this held senior roles at Barcelona. It is our stated ambition to re-establish Manchester United as a title-winning club. We are pleased that Omar will be joining us to help achieve that goal so that, once again, United fans can see, in the words of Sir Matt Busby, the red flag flying high at the summit of English, European and world football. Omar's start date will be confirmed in due course. In the meantime, Patrick Stewart will continue as the interim CEO. So again, that in itself was a very strong statement by Manchester United, essentially admitting football hasn't been at the heart of everything we do. We want to win trophies. We want to win titles. This is the first step in doing that, suggesting that there are still plenty of steps to go as well. And we want to be at the summit of English, European and world football, going back to an ethos of Sir Matt Busby. And just finally, this is a separate article from Chris Wheeler and Jack Gordon from the Mail once again, saying Ratcliffe and his sporting director Sir Dave Brailsford are determined to appoint best in class to the key positions at United, and it's a measure of their ambition that they have targeted one of City's inner circle. So going back to really what we were just what it says there, talking about Ratcliffe's influence over this deal, it's almost immense, really, isn't it? You know, lots of people, myself included, and I still am, this hasn't really changed too much, were wondering, well, how is this all going to work? How is this all going to play out when it comes to key decisions at United, footballing decisions? And this is a footballing decision, but it's also a key business decision. The Manchester United Chief Executive Officer is a massive, massive position in world football, and it affects every aspect of Manchester United, not just on the pitch, but off of it, and commercial deals, sponsorship deals. So it's the first real time, I suppose, we've seen any form or this new collaboration, if you will, between Ineos, Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the Glazers has really been tested. And if we had heard stories, and I suppose time can still come for these kind of stories to come out, but if we had heard stories that Ineos wanted this guy, they were a big fan of this person, this candidate, and they brought it to the Glazer family, and the Glazers gone, no, we don't like him, we like this guy, and he was like, I don't know, an internal appointment at Manchester United, or he was someone that didn't have a lot of footballing experience and just had a lot of commercial experience. He'd been really successful with this business and made a lot of money for this business, but when it pertained to football, he had kind of no idea. Then you would go, well, things aren't changing. There's no change there. That's still a very Glazerific appointment, if you will. And this is why I think there is a lot of cautious optimism. I think this is why that people are sort of going, "Oh, that's different. That's different." It's because you brought someone in that's got a lot of football pedigree in the Premier League at a club that's been very successful. 115 charges put to one side, obviously, and that's different by United. And you know what? Actually, just as we're sort of chatting now, it is. The sort of reaction to this, I think, sort of across the board from all United fans has been so curious, hasn't it? Because there's, like with everything, there's always a wide range of emotions. But I think a lot of people have been like, they don't really know how to react. And I suppose that's where I'm still at, am at the moment, where you go, wow, that's different, and wow, that's an impressive appointment. But because of everything that's happened, and because of everything that we've seen over the past, well, just under the entire Glazer stewardship, but also particularly, you know, since Sir Alex Ferguson's retirement, we're just like, there are just all of these alarm bells going off in people's heads, like, this isn't right. This is out of the norm. And then seeing statements which clearly admit, you know, when it comes to football, that hasn't been the priority at Manchester United. It's been about making money. And when it comes to the best in class, we've sort of settled for people that have come through the club. We've settled for sort of, you know, puppets, if you will. We've settled for people that won't go against the grain, and their primary focus is making money. And if success on the pitch comes as a byproduct, that's cool. But if not, no big deal. We're still Man United. We'll make a lot of money. So it is out of the norm, and it is just one person still, and there are still several steps, as the statement says. It's the first step, and it's an important first step, but it's just that, it's the first step. So this is when you get into the territory of sort of cautiously or quietly optimistic, because there's still a lot of different steps to go, and Omar Berrada could come in, and then the director of football or the sporting director that we hire is, you know, a questionable appointment, or the head of recruitment, not Tabislaw, but the head of recruitment is a questionable appointment, and we go into the summer, and our summer transfer window is very normal for Manchester United, right? So there is still plenty of steps to go, and I still do have a lot of concern about, you know, when push comes to shove, when there is that first, you know, big sort of disagreement between the Glazers and Sir Jim Ratcliffe, what happens then? Are we going to hear these reports of unrest? Are we going to hear these rumours of this sort of political game of chess going on at Manchester United? Or is Omar Berrada going to be swept up in all of that? There are still a lot of questions, and he has a massive undertaking at United. No doubt about that. Because, it's a heck of a job at it. It's one thing, and I was kind of talking about this on the Full View last night. It's one thing to be the chief football operations officer, wherever his title is, at Manchester City, in a structure, in an organisation that's been very successful and has everyone in their correct and optimal positions. It's another thing to go into the CEO of the biggest football club in the world that is internally an absolute shambles, that's got majority owners that could give a shit about what happens, with facilities that are 10, 15 years past their sell-by date, with a squad that's got one of the highest salaries in the Premier League and is currently, 8th in the Premier League, hasn't won a league title in a decade, hasn't won a Champions League since 2008, last final was 2011. There's a heck of an undertaking there. So, it's also really important who he surrounds himself with and who these other appointments are as well. But at the same time, it's an important first step. And the hope is that this mindset of getting the best in class, this mindset of getting, all right, we're going to rip everything out and we're going to start from scratch. We're going to get the best CEO we think we can find. We're going to get the best sporting director and the best head of recruitment we think we can find and go from there. That's what we need. That's what we've all been crying out for. And again, we'll have to wait and see, I suppose, with that aspect of it too. But it's a positive start. It's a cautiously optimistic start. When it pertains to January, I don't think anything changes. With January and January transfers and what have you, outgoings. But when it comes to incomings, if we're expecting big radical change, it doesn't even start to the summer anyway. I think, and again, that kind of, all eyes are turning to the summer already. I suppose the question now is as a fan, where are you at the moment? Are you thinking with Berrada coming in, starting in the summer, with all of these plans being put in place for the summer, is it going to be challenging not to write off the season, but be looking ahead? So if we have bad results, we got City coming up in the derby, when is it, February or something like that, at the Etihad, probably going to lose, let's face it. Is the initial reaction going, who cares about this season? It's all about the summer. Does Ten Hag need to not think like that? Because if he does think like that, he might be out of a job as well. So it's an interesting one, certainly. We've got some super chats, which I'll get to in just a second. We got nearly 900 people watching. How many likes are we currently at the morning as well? Only 127. We can go higher. If you haven't already, click the like button. Let's see if we can get that to, 300. There's no reason we can't immediately, boom, a 300. If you haven't already, there you go. It says it right there. Like, subscribe, share. If you haven't already. So yes, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well. Let's get to your super chats here. Where are we at? Where was I? Chris says, is Greenwood coming back early? Fabrizio was saying something. I haven't seen anything to suggest that's the case or anything like that. A bit like Flex said last night. I think with the whole Greenwood situation, obviously, like with many things, it's something Ineos are going to address in the summer, I would think, because even the decision, regarding him, that statement when it was released by United, I think said that he was never going to play again or something along those lines, wasn't it? But look, Ineos are in charge of footballing operations, so they may all have the same viewpoint. They may have a different one, but it's going to be addressed during the summer, and I think that's probably just Twitter and social media speculation, to be honest with you. Like I said, I think everything, any decision that's sort of a big decision that you can think of is going to be addressed in the summer. I think the primary focus of Ineos right now is getting people in position that will probably make those kind of decisions, in all honesty. Amanor says, where is KG? Omar recruiting him as headers vibes. I did speak to KG last night. I can confirm we're on speaking terms. You know, there's no trouble in paradise, despite what the rumours in the comments say. There's definitely trouble in paradise. Definitely. Confirmed. Sources say, anonymous sources, close to United View, who want to remain anonymous, to maintain confidentiality and protect relationships, say there's no trouble in paradise. Big up DJ. DJ's in the chat, says, cautious optimism for me, hoping Ineos follow the Omar acquisition with football business heavyweights best in class. Well, certainly that is the hope, and I think it goes back to, you know, when people are talking about Dan Ashworth and all that kind of stuff and saying, why would he be interested in going to Man United when he's currently at Newcastle, and Newcastle's a big project, a lot of money there. Why would Omar Berrada be interested in jumping from City to United? Because it's a massive opportunity, and by all accounts, he was sold very well on the project by Ineos, by Jim Ratcliffe, by Sir Dave Brailsford. And Dan Ashworth, you would think, would probably be in a similar point of view. And as we've said about all like managers over however many years at United, whoever that person is to restore Manchester United to former successes, I mean, I don't think, you know, any club really will get to the level of dominance that, you know, Man United had in the sort of 90s and 2000s of, I say that, you know, you do see periods of dominance, don't you? City have had their dominance. But the point being is, will United ever get back to that point where, you know, we're just winning the league near enough every year and all that kind of stuff? I don't know. I don't know if that is possible in today's day and age, but football is cyclical. But whoever is the manager, to do that, we always say, they'll write themselves a blank check. I'll be like, he was the guy. He puts himself down in history to be the first guy to do it since Ferguson. And it's kind of the same with the CEO. If you are the person that helped restore Manchester United to former glories and, you know, reduced the salaries and, you know, oversaw a new stadium, a new training ground, and made Manchester United back into this sort of juggernaut on the pitch as well as off the pitch, you know, you become an icon, not just at Manchester United, but in football in general. So it's a massive challenge, certainly, no doubt about that. As Jules said, name goes down in history, no doubt about that. Ando says, bro, City have won 5 of the 6. Well, that's what I just mentioned. You could argue City have done that, but can you do it legally? That's the question. Allegedly, as KG would say. 115 charges, alleged. But time will tell. Maybe they haven't. That's the thing. I don't even know when that trial is, but in 18 months' time, they may have not. That might not count. I don't know. And then we could have someone that was maybe involved in that. That's what I kind of... I do still worry about that. I know that the Times said, Omar Berrada wasn't involved in the 115 charges, but it's one of those ones, like sometimes I say in press conferences, what are they supposed to say when it comes to that, right? If you do look at his CV, it's challenging. It would be very challenging for him not to be aware. You know, it'd be very challenging because you look at some of his titles as he's gone through. Some of them were commercial stuff. Some of them were sponsorship stuff. So would he not be aware? Look, there have been a really good documentary. I don't know if anyone's watched it. It's called Dirty Money on Netflix. And I think there's 2 seasons of it. And it's about kind of that. It's about like sort of scandal in big businesses and what have you. And, you know, sometimes there are situations where people genuinely don't know. It is above their head. But with him, look, time will tell. What's the time's going to say? He was involved. And it would just be United's luck of getting this new CEO. We're like, things are going great, banned from football. So we'll see how that one plays out. And we'll see how much he does or he doesn't know as well. Because, you know, and this is why I say watch that documentary, Dirty Money. And it's about not like football. It's about lots of stuff. There's the one with the... someone can let me know in the chat. There was like an emission scandal was it VW in Germany? I think it was. I might be wrong about that. And there were some people that were aware, but they couldn't do anything about it because it was above their heads sort of thing. Or they weren't the ones actively doing it. So it's a very complex thing, certainly. And look, City, if they've done it, should have the book thrown at them. You look at Everton, how much they've been punished. City, if they've got 115 charges and they're guilty of all of them, you know, they're like, I think it was some finance expert was saying it on, I think it was TalkSport the other day, saying if they're found guilty, they'll be relegated to the conference or even more, and they absolutely should be if that's what they've done. So he might have been aware of it. He might be complicit in it. It's very interesting. Yes, it was VW. Yes, yeah, I remember. Like I said, it was. It's a wild. It's a wild documentary. I would recommend watching it. And who got punished for it, in comparison to who didn't get punished for it, is fascinating. Again, and who was aware of it and did get punished, even though they weren't really involved in it. It's crazy. It's crazy. So again, I'd recommend going to watch that. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about Casemiro possibly going to Saudi Arabia because Cristiano Ronaldo, yes, wants to reunite with his former Real Madrid and Manchester United teammates. Now, this comes from Foot Mercato, who says Al Nassr wants to sign Casemiro for Manchester United at the request of Cristiano Ronaldo. Of course, Casemiro has been linked with a move away from Manchester United. Of course, he's one of these players that's over 30. He's got a sort of higher wage, and in the, I guess, consideration of possibly looking at younger, cheaper alternatives, Casemiro's name has been brought up as someone that could possibly see an exit in the summer, and a move to Saudi would be, I guess, a suitable option for Manchester United because Casemiro still has, 2 years left with an option on his contract, which is a high-wage deal as well. He only signed for Manchester United in 2022. But we've seen this season, Casemiro struggle in midfield. Not to say that he's the only one, because who hasn't struggled in midfield for Manchester United this season, unless your name's Kobbie Mainoo. But that could be a system, that could be, or it could be Casemiro's losing his legs, as some people would say as well. So Casemiro certainly could be one name on the chopping block, and it could be an exit to Saudi is on the horizon for him. It's an interesting one. The whole sort of Saudi situation is really, really interesting right now because obviously last summer a load of people utilised it, Chelsea and others, even people, PSG with the Neymar deal. People used it as this brand new sort of market of high money. You could players that would be difficult to sell for a lot of money. Suddenly you could, and lots of players were interested. I think the interesting thing now is we are starting to hear those sort of murmurings and rumblings of people of the league not being what they thought it was going to be, or the project not being what they thought it was going to be. I know that Cristiano Ronaldo recently did the interview where he was like, oh, the Saudi league's better than Liga in France, and I'm scoring all these goals and all that kind of stuff. Look, Cristiano Ronaldo is the highest paid player in the world. I'm sure he's and he's nearly 39, and he's scoring all of these goals, so I'm sure he's very happy there. But at the same time, there's lots of other people that aren't very happy there as well. And, there might be people, I suppose if Casemiro spoke directly to Cristiano Ronaldo, then Cristiano Ronaldo, it's great out here. Look, I'm doing great. I'm getting paid all this money. It's fantastic. It's amazing. But then he might talk to other people that are out there. He might talk, for instance, to his other Real Madrid teammate Karim Benzema, who might say the complete opposite, because Karim Benzema seemingly is angling for a move out of Saudi. I think it was Fabrizio Romano. I'm just sort of scrolling through because I saw it last night. Fabrizio Romano said last night he understands more meetings will take place soon to discuss the future of Karim Benzema. The situation remains tense with Al Ittihad. Saudi Pro League bosses still want Benzema to stay in Saudi, even to join another Saudi club. Return to Europe can only be possible with a huge salary cut. So there are sort of numerous examples of these people that are going over to the Saudi Pro League and essentially going, the money, the money's great, but it's not what I thought it was going to be, or certain promises have been not fulfilled, and maybe I want to come back to Europe. And Casemiro seemingly left Real Madrid for a challenge of coming to Manchester United, and if he goes there, he might be like, Well, I'm hearing things that say the contrary, Cristiano. Now, if something that he wants to do, Casemiro, and he goes, yeah, I'll be open to the Saudi move, then it's going to be really interesting to see how United approach that in the summer, isn't it? Because United got to get the wage bill down. And this is the weird thing. When you talk about people like Casemiro and Raphael Varane and all that, then you start to get the sort of whataboutism thrown back at you, right? They go, what about this player? What about that player? This player should go before that player. And why are you focusing on, this person? Like, for instance, when you talk about Varane, they go, yeah, but what about Harry Maguire? Why is Harry Maguire still at the club? What about Victor Lindelof? Are you saying that Maguire and Lindelof are better than Raphael Varane? And no, that's not what I'm saying. But when the subject is brought up of that player individually, I mean, Casemiro was someone that reportedly Sir Jim Ratcliffe pointed out when he visited Old Trafford back in March of last year, looking at it on paper, just going, wait a minute, you're telling me you signed this guy, Casemiro. What was the transfer fee again? Was it close to 70 million? Something like that? Correct me if I'm wrong. It was around that number, wasn't it? And he's over 30. He's got like a 4-year contract, a huge wage. Is that the smartest thing to do? What's the vision there? What's the long-term vision there? How are we putting ourselves in the best position possible? And with the financial fair play issues that we have, and everyone has at the moment, then you start to look at some of these sort of higher salary players, knowing that we're not going to be in the Champions League next season. You then go, we'll probably have to get them off our books. And it's not to say Casemiro is rubbish, or Casemiro has never achieved anything in his career, because of course he has. He's one of the most decorated football players ever. So there's no doubting his history, but it's going, okay, what's right for Manchester United at the moment? What's the best thing to do for United? And if we're going to bring in players in the summer, what do we have to do to achieve that? And if we're going to have a bit of a reset, with midfield and younger players, then Casemiro might have to be a casualty of that. And if there's an option, like a Saudi option that he's interested in, that might be the most easy, way out for United in that situation, because across Europe, Casemiro with 2 years left on his contract, a high salary contract, that can be a very difficult proposition for other clubs to take. United could go, we'd be interested in Casemiro. They go, we're not paying that much. We're not picking up that contract, so you're going to have to contribute to that contract. If they go to a Saudi might go, well, we're obviously not going to pay that much, but we'll pick up his contract and you don't have to pay anything towards him. And that might be the best thing for him. So I would say watch that one with space. Casemiro and Raphael Varane, I'd say both watch with space. Obviously, with Varane, it's going to be interesting because his contract's up at the end of the year. So either he's going or he's staying. Casemiro, you do get sort of conflicting reports of him, don't you? Because you do get those reports that suggest that Ten Hag still views him as a big part of his plans. I think they just mean that for the rest of the season. I think when it comes to the summer, bar a couple of sort of younger players, a Kobe Mainoo, a Garnacho, I think anything and anyone's up for grabs. And I think that's the way that it should be at United. And the next summer's just going to be fascinating. Absolutely fascinating for United. How they operate in the transfer market, who those people are that are operating in the transfer market, of course, and the incomings and the outgoings. And I think Casemiro will be one of those names, to be honest with you. And I don't think the sort of Saudi route, though, as I was mentioning, I don't think that's as concrete and guaranteed as it was last summer. Because I do think whilst there will be the Cristiano Ronaldos that are saying it's great, come out here, there'll be other people that'll be like, I'd avoid it. If you've still got time in your career that you can be playing in Europe, competing at the top level, maybe you want to give that one a miss. Maybe you want to park that one, because there's a lot of people that went out there and now very quickly they're wanting to come back. And so I think all of that's just very, very interesting. What people are saying here on the chat at the moment here. Jalaboy Comics says, agree with you, Owen, but let's remember, Casemiro alongside Martinez were the biggest difference makers for us last season. Wage too high, but as a player, phenomenal for us. And this is what I mean. When you talk about Casemiro, I suppose this is just a problem nowadays, isn't it? Is that when you talk about a player in terms of moving them on for whatever reason, people perceive that as, so you're saying Casemiro's shit. And you go, well, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is the wage, the age, and was it the smartest deal to do, and the position that you find yourself in, sometimes you have to go in a different direction. Sometimes you have to pivot. And that doesn't mean I'm saying keep Scott McTominay and start him every game. Of course not. Scott McTominay, I think, is going to be a really valuable player in the Man United transfer window this coming summer, because he's one of, if you look at, academy players that we've got in the first team, he's one of the people that we can make the most money on in terms of FFP, in terms of pure profit, because he's an academy player and he's played a lot of Premier League football. There were clubs interested in him last season. And if you're smart and if you're good at your job, you can get decent money for Scott McTominay. You can. I know people in the chat go, Scott McTominay, you get £5 for him. But you can. So I think that's a valuable chip to bargain in the summer window. And he should be sold in the summer transfer window. Of course he should. And hopefully a good director of football can shift him for decent money. And we'll see how that goes. Compost Smurf says we could get far more for Rashford. Now, that's interesting too. Be interesting to see if anyone would put an offer in. Problem is he just signed a new contract. So, I don't know. But yes, keep an eye out for that. How many likes are we currently at? We're nearly at 1,200 people watching. 216 likes. We still haven't hit 300 yet. If you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well. We'll see if we can get to 159,900. We could end the show with just 100 subscribers to go to 160,000. Oof, that could be interesting. Yes, that could be interesting. Let's move on. Let's talk about Erik ten Hag wanting Brian Brobbey. And this actually does come from credible outlets as well, which is a bit alarming. This comes from Florian Plettenberg, who has said, news, Brobbey. Understand that Erik ten Hag has the idea to sign Brian Brobbey in the winter, which is surprising because we're not going to sign permanently anyone in the winter transfer window. So I'm not sure where that money comes from. Nevertheless, Brobbey and Man United, it was a hot topic last summer. The contact never broke off. Both have a high appreciation for each other. At the latest, in the next summer window, a transfer will be a topic again if Ten Hag stays as the coach. Ajax don't want to sell him now. Contract until 2027. Brobbey and Xerxes on the list for Manchester United. The 21-year-old striker has 13 goals and 4 assists in 25 matches. Now, Brian Brobbey, I think we've been linked to him in every transfer window in which Erik ten Hag's been the manager. His first summer window, we were linked to Brian Brobbey. Then last winter, I'm pretty sure we were, even though we weren't going to get him because we could only afford loans. This past summer, were we linked to him? Probably somewhere. Probably. And he's not going to come in the winter. But just say enough. Enough with the ex-Ajax players, or enough with the people that still play for... Enough with that. Enough. Now, whether or not you believe that report to be accurate, look, Florian Plettenberg has very strong sources, particularly ones in Germany. Brobbey used to play for Leipzig, didn't he? Was he on loan at Leipzig? Let me check my facts. I'm pretty sure he was. And then he went back to... he went there and then he went back to Ajax, I think it was. Yeah, he was at RB Leipzig for a season. So that's probably where those sources come from. So I would believe that Florian Plettenberg has fairly strong sources. Whether or not it's legitimate, genuine interest from United or Brian Brobbey's agent going to Florian Plettenberg going, hey, United are interested. Erik likes Brian. He likes him. And I did see that Brobbey was, I think he did an interview or was in some press conference yesterday saying, I see the stuff on the news, but I'm staying in Amsterdam, all that kind of stuff. But let's look at it a couple of different ways. One way, if Erik ten Hag is still in the job in the summer, if he goes to Ineos and if he goes to Omar Berrada and he goes to these new heads of recruitment and sporting directors and go, I want to get Brian Brobbey, they would go, Erik, that is maybe what would have happened in the past here. We're not doing that anymore. We're not doing the you've worked with them in the past, so let's work for them again deal. We're not doing that. We're trying to go for the best up-and-coming players and up-and-coming strikers in Europe. We've seen what happens when we go for your former players. The hit rate is questionable to say the least. In fact, the only hit, really, of people that he's worked with in the past is Lisandro Martinez. The rest, Antony, no. Andre Onana, no. Sofian Amrabat, no. The percentages are not good. So I don't see really anything in this one, because if Erik ten Hag did want him, I think Ineos would just go no. I don't really see that much in it, because I don't think... I would hope that Erik ten Hag wouldn't be naive enough to sort of go to, the board or what have you and go, yeah, skip Brobbey. Really? Is that what we're going to do? So I don't think there's anything into it. Look, the big sort of caveat in there, honestly, and I know some people don't want to talk about that, but is if Ten Hag is still the manager in the summer. I said last night on the Full View, I think that the next 6 months are really going to determine Erik ten Hag's career at Manchester United, if he stays on or not. Let's face it. Ineos might come in and say, look, this season's been a bit of a nightmare, injuries, the strategic review, we totally get that, it's not been easy, but players are coming back now, so prove yourself for the rest of the season. Last season was last season, that happened, and well done. This season has been great thus far, but let's see what's going to happen. And I think irrespective, I think there's going to be a conversation on Erik ten Hag at the end of the season, because why wouldn't there be? When you've got all of these new people coming in, when you've got a new CEO, when you've got a new largest single shareholder in the club, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, when you've got a new sporting director, when you've got a new head of recruitment, inevitably there are going to be conversations going, how do we feel about the current manager? Are we happy with him? Do we think we could do better? Is there someone else we've got in mind that we think we're more aligned on? I mean, for me, there is no way, when they were having those conversations with Omar Berrada, that Erik ten Hag's name wasn't brought up as to what do we think about the current manager? What do you think we should do? Would you be open to looking at alternatives in the summer? Because that would just be what happened. And I think people that think that didn't happen, I think are being very naive. And I think people that think there won't be a conversation about Erik ten Hag's future come the summer also are being very naive. And you can talk about injuries, you can talk about all this kind of stuff, but irrespective, it's just entirely logical that there will be a conversation about him. And now it's upon Erik ten Hag to get something out of the players that he's got at the moment, whether you think they're good or bad, or whether you think they're his players or they're not his players. He's got to get something out of them, because he's got to show the new people coming in that he's the right man for the job, and he can work with them. And in these meetings that he has with these people, he's got to sell himself. He's got to sell himself and show that, yep, we're totally aligned. Yes, that's what I want from this player. This is what I want from recruitment. This is that. Yes, I totally agree. Because if he doesn't, then he'll be out of a job. That is just what happens when new people buy into football clubs and new people come into positions of power at football clubs. I mean, it's a story that's happened over and over and over and over and over again in football. And Man United will be no different. New person comes in, they take control of football operations, or they buy the club, or a new CEO comes in, or a new sporting director comes in, and they go, I want to work with someone I've worked with in the past, or I want to work with this person. That's what's going to happen. So I think Brian Brobbey, I think, is probably the least of Erik ten Hag's concerns, and certainly will become the summer. The real concern will be, am I still going to be in this job, or am I going to be replaced? And I mean, we said it earlier on, Dave Brailsford and Sir Jim Ratcliffe want to appoint the best in class when it comes to all of the positions at the club. And they might perceive Erik ten Hag as the best in class, or they might perceive someone else. And I think the remainder of this season is going to really dictate that as well. So I think it's going to be, again, that's why the summer's really interesting. The summer's going to be absolutely fascinating with that. As I've said numerous times, my concern with Erik ten Hag is that it might become a point, really, in the next couple of months, where all of us kind of really know what his future is, but he still stays into the end of the season. I think Ten Hag stays to the end of the season anyway, but I think if things go badly, he could find himself in a situation like we've seen quite a few Chelsea managers in the past. Sarri, Benitez was an interim manager, but others where Conte, even when he was there, where kind of what's going to happen. That they're going to be replaced, but they kind of just stick out to the end of the season anyway for contractual purposes, and they become a bit of a lame duck manager. So that's why Ten Hag, like I said, he's got 6 months, I think. He's got 6 months to prove himself, to sell himself on the pitch, off the pitch, and then see what happens there. But it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see. What else are people saying here in the chat at the moment? Let's have a look. SK says, like the stream, make it at least 500 likes. Yes, we're over halfway there to 500 likes. Sometimes, on a Monday, people are a bit tired. They're wiping the sleepy dust out of their eyes, going, oh. But, and go, I forgot to like. And click the like button. What else are people saying here? Captain Caveman says, Eric and these players all need to prove themselves. MA says, Owen are using beard surgeon from KG's brother. I can see some growth on the sides. This is, as you can tell, this is about 7 months growth on my face currently at the moment. Yeah. It's very David Brentish, isn't it? Yeah, it's tremendous. Prod by Palmeria says, I think European journalists will keep using us for clicks. The English media have been put in their place by Ten Hag and Sir Jim, in my opinion. People underestimate how influential Sir Jim Ratcliffe is in the UK. I did see, and this isn't so much with the media, but I suppose social media to an extent, which is part of it, with Jadon Sancho at the weekend, with the penalty, like he won a penalty, then he wanted to take it, and then the Dortmund player didn't let him take it. Didn't get as much coverage as the Jadon Sancho assist. Did it, to be honest with you. And I don't really care, about he was arguing with the player about whether to take it. It's very clear why he wanted the penalty, because he won it, and he was like, I want to score, because then I can be like, I got an assist in my first game, and I scored in my next game, up yours. But he didn't. I just don't care. I just don't care. Oh, the penalty's really soft as well. Really, really soft. But good. Like I said, I want him to do well at Dortmund. I want him to do well at Dortmund so we can get a good price for him in the summer. That's cool. But it didn't. I thought it was interesting that already 2 weeks in, people have lost interest in that very fast. I mean, proper out of sight, out of mind. Cool. Did he win a penalty? All right. Cool. No problem. Yeah. Mano says, and he's coming back. Well, obviously he's coming back because there's no buy option. So he's going to be coming back to Man United at some point, and then I think the intent is to sell him, to be honest with you. But there you go. What else do we want to talk about? Oh, yes. Andre Onana. Yes, let's talk about Andre Onana. This is quite an interesting one coming from Chris Wheeler. This just goes to Andre Onana and international football is just, scrap EastEnders and Coronation Street. It's just the biggest soap opera you've seen in your life. Chris Wheeler says, there doesn't appear to be any change in Andre Onana's feud with the Cameroon FA president Samuel Eto'o. It's said they haven't spoken since the World Cup in Qatar, and their relationship is broken, and I always struggle with this word. Irreconcilable? Shit. Not good. Irreversible. There you go. Let's go with that. I always struggle with that one. That's the word that I struggle with. There are just some words that you just can't get your mouth to say. That's just always. Irreconcilable? Is that it? Irreconcilable? Done okay. Onana could be back this week if Cameroon go out of AFCON on Tuesday. Andre Onana, honestly. What more needs to be said about him, right? When it comes to international football, all of the... and as it's pointed out here by MA, go back to the picture, actually. Let's go back to the picture, because it is funny. Look at Samuel Eto'o's eyes. Looking at Andre Onana. Look. Talk about... What's the phrase? If looks could kill, Andre Onana would be pushing up daisies right now. That is no joke. Look at that. That's just pure rage in the eyes of Samuel Eto'o. But the whole thing is just a giant farce, isn't it? And I really sympathise with fans of Cameroon, and I really sympathise with the Cameroon FA and just people that are, from African nations or watching AFCON, because the way he has operated is really bad. I mean, and then what doesn't help him is then he comes out and does interviews where he just says stuff that's clearly not true. You purposely stay behind for United to play against Tottenham, and then you get a private jet out there, which United pay for. That's diverted. You then get a car to the game. And then you don't get picked because why would you be picked for that game, by the way? Because you arrived the day of. You arrived in the city, or in the country, but in the city the day of, just hours before kickoff. You weren't in the squad, and by all accounts, he wasn't happy about that. How dare I not be picked? What do you mean, how dare you not be picked? You weren't in the country yesterday, so of course you haven't been picked. And then by all accounts, Al Hadji Diouf is trying to calm him down. And to be honest, if Al Hadji Diouf is calming you down, then you know you've effed up. Because just go back and watch his career, to be honest with you, right? So that's all going on. He does play in one of the games, drops a stinker, and then also is on the pitch telling people, giving instructions, going, oh yeah, do it this way. I turn around back and go, save the ball, man. Make sure the ball doesn't go in the net. What are you doing? Why weren't you here, by the way? Where were you? Why were you in Manchester? What was that? And then you do an interview going, look, Cameroon's my top priority. I'd be like, what? Why? How is Cameroon your top priority? You weren't here. How? I don't know. And I'd love to know the sort of United reaction to all of this. I'd love to know how much they were aware of, how much they weren't aware of. I'd love to know those conversations. I know that Ten Hag in press conferences has said, we were aware of Andre's situation, and it was brought up when we were signing him. And I'd love to know what those conversations were. I'd love to know if it was, so you retired from international football, right? So you're not going to go in January. And it'd be interesting if he went, yeah, I'm not going back. And then he did go back, and maybe that might be why he decided to stick around for a little bit longer, because he was like, I kind of told him that I wasn't going to go, and now I am going to go, even though I fell out with the manager. The president of the FA hates me, and I'm still not talking to. Who's advising him? Who would go, I don't think it's the place to go, Andre. People don't. There's positions of people in power that you're not on speaking terms with. So is that the right thing to do? And then there's the other school of thought that he didn't want to go. He wanted to play, the Wigan game and the Tottenham game because he didn't want to lose his spot to Brian Brobbey. Which is, if that is true, that's wild. Because talk about, if you back yourself and if you're so good, it doesn't matter whether you're there or not. You're good enough, you'll come straight back in, right? That should be how it works. And I don't know, with the Brian Brobbey stuff as well, with, because we do this a lot. When players don't play, we say they should play, they should be given opportunity, then they play and we're like, oh, they're not that good. So it's not, for me, it's not a case of Brian Brobbey the next great United goalkeeper. There's an argument to be said that, can he do much worse than Onana, maybe with shot stopping? I don't know. The whole situation with Andre and Onana, just in general, is just very farcical, isn't it? That's what it is. The whole thing is just a mess. And I appreciate the confidence when he does the interviews and I made a mistake. Well, that's great. But in the same way, we used to do this with David De Gea, didn't we, right? I remember David De Gea last season, and in the last few seasons when he made mistakes. And he would do what Andre Onana did. He would come out and he would do the interview going, hold my hands up, which you go, should have probably done that when they took the shot, to be honest with you. But hold my hands up, it was my mistake. Eventually you go, well, I appreciate you coming out and saying it was my fault, but we kind of just need you to do your job, basically. And I think with Onana, usually I try not to be so quick to judge, particularly with goalkeepers, right? Me, goalkeepers union. But I just don't see it getting any better for him. I just don't. And I really hope that this is one of those things that's clipped and I'm proved wrong in a couple years' time. But I just don't see it getting any better. I think at his age, what was he, 27, 28? If your fundamentals aren't there, they're just not going to be there. They're not. If it was the other way round and it was like he's good fundamentals of a goalkeeper, let's see if we can work on his distribution, that can kind of be taught. But I mean, we're talking with Onana, just the real basics of goalkeeping. Your footwork, your diving, your reflexes, your technique. All of it is just so erratic and so unconventional. Now, unconventional sometimes isn't bad as long as it gets the job done. But every time, people have a shot, I think it's going to go in. I really, really do. And I don't think it's a case of, for other situations, I'd go, maybe it's just a period of adaptation and all that. But I just don't see that. I don't see it as like De Gea when he first came in, because he was 20, and you're like, he just needs to bulk up a little bit. Andre Onana's, 27, 28. It's not a physicality issue. If it was a physicality issue, I'd go, well, again, you can overcome that. You can put on a bit of size, you can work on that in the gym, you can fix that. I don't know at this stage in your career if you can genuinely fix, again, we're talking basic fundamentals of goalkeeping, shot stopping, reflexes, diving technique, coming to claim for crosses. If it's not there now, then it's probably not going to be there. It's not. And it's not to say that Andre Onana is a terrible goalkeeper. He wouldn't succeed in other teams. I don't see how he's going to succeed in this team. As I said before, if you picked up Andre Onana and you placed him in Manchester City side, I'm sure he would do very well in Manchester City side, right? Don't concede a ton of chances, so don't have to be the best goalkeeper in the world. You'll have a lot of the ball at your feet. You can spray the ball around. The whole team's press resistant. People are in the right positions. So you get the best out of what he is as a goalkeeper, as a modern goalkeeper. But United aren't that. So if anything, they always the phrase, isn't it? Extenuate the positives, hide the negatives. That's what you should always try and do. But it's the other way around with Andre Onana at Man United. They extenuate his negatives because we concede so many chances and we have to have our goalkeeper sort of bail us out by shot stopping and reflexes. And we sort of hide his positives, which is playing out from the back, being press resistant because of the injuries and because of players not being good enough. We're not really the team that plays out from the back that much. We're not the team that can give it to the centre-backs and then they can get out of tight positions. We're not the team that can just spray it out to the full-backs or just dink it over into the midfield. We're not that team. So we're even in the best team, even if he was in City, they probably concede some goals where they go, Andre Onana, what's going on with that? But it'd be hidden much more. In United, it's massively exposed, and the positives that you do have from him, you don't really see anyway. So it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work at all. And again, I don't see that getting better, to be honest. So I don't know. I don't know what happens with him in the summer. I don't know what happens with him based on what maybe could happen with Erik ten Hag. Be interesting to see what Ineos and the new people that come in think of it as well. But just the whole Cameroon thing is just, again, I think it's just a massive farce. And after all of that, he might not miss any games. He might be back immediately because Cameroon might be out tomorrow. So it'll be interesting to, I don't know, see what happens. Let's see what people are saying in the chat before we wrap things up. Capital Dice says, was Owen a David De Gea hater? I don't think what one has to do with the other. I backed David De Gea for quite some time. If you go back to watch last season, I backed him for a long period of time. And towards the end, and I still do think it was right for him to go. I think the time had come for him to go. And I think, again, we talk about salaries. The option of extending his contract on $375K a week, just, if you were smarter, you would have spent it more wisely, the money that you made up. We didn't. Shock horror. But I always say this, everything circles back to recruitment. I don't think it was the wrong decision to let De Gea go, but the replacement clearly that we went with, that's been proven not to be the right call. It's crazy. It's crazy. And Skankface says, not at all. He agreed a salary decrease. He should have stayed. This is the weird thing with all of that, because you get reports that say he did, and then you get other reports saying he didn't. So that's the weird. With David De Gea's exit, there is still a lot of information that's not out there as well, because there are some reports going, yeah, he agreed a salary decrease, and then Erik ten Hag pulled it, and then you get others that go, he was never offered anything, at all. he was just going to go. So, and he wouldn't have agreed to that. So very strange, very strange. Anyway, guys, that's the transfer view for you this morning. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. I believe there is going to be another UV therapy episode coming out later today with Flex and Avellino as well. So be sure to stick around for that later on this afternoon. As I mentioned, new members, there's going to be a new episode of UV Raw coming out today, because I know there's so many new members and people asking, when's the next bit of members content going to come out today? It's going to be coming out today, which is a lot of fun. If you haven't already, go back and watch all of the episodes. How many are there out there? It must be like, what, 25? Something like that, maybe even more. And at some point this week as well, I'm going to be doing a live members Q&A. So all of you new members, you can come in, you can chat, you can ask questions about anything. I mean, you've seen me on these shows. I'll ramble on for ages anyway about anything. So ask whatever you want. No holes barred, and we'll have a good chat. Anyway, guys, have a great Monday. I'll speak to you again very soon. I'm out of here. Peace.